I want to talk about platonic co-parenting. Have you guys heard of this?
Yes.
Yes. Well, a little bit. Well, for those who don't know what platonic co-parenting is, it's basically when you choose to have a child with someone who you are not romantically involved with, and in most cases you also choose not to live with them. And platonic co-parenting is basically now on the rise. So my question to you lovely ladies is, if you hadn't found your partner yet, but you really wanted a baby, would you consider platonic co-parenting? And do you think it's better to be a single parent co-parenting with someone you know, or co-parenting with a stranger?
So I definitely see myself having a family, and I've always said, like, from a very young age, that I'm gonna have a family when I'm ready. I don't care if I'm in a relationship or not. I'm just going to start my family. And I remember saying it in front of my baby cousins, and they were like, "But how do you know you'll be with someone at that age?" I said, "I don't know, but I don't care. I want to have my baby when I want to have my baby." Obviously, in an ideal situation, I'd like to start a family with a romantic partner, but you don't always get to have your ideal situation, you know. And sometimes people get divorced. People fall out of love, people separate, all of those things can happen. I would definitely be up for being a co-parent with a friend that I knew and that I have known for a really long time, because I would know that they would want to raise the baby to the same standards that I would. I would be open to that. However, see now.
Where we going?
This is because it was the shoulder in, which got
I know, right? It was going along real nicely, and then she just like,
it's
bam,
just
mic
that.
drop.
It's just that I don't see myself co-parenting with like a stranger, and I put stranger in quotation marks for anyone listening on the podcast, because I've been reading a lot about websites where you can find partners and start co-parenting with them, and I've seen a lot of success stories, which I'm very happy about, and it's not something that I turn my nose up to or that I think is a bad idea. I just don't see it working for myself, because a baby is for the rest of your life, and you know, I just see it in the same way as, like, you could meet someone from Tinder and for the first 3 months they seem great, but what about month 5 and 6 and now you're pregnant? For me, I need to know you for a really long time. I need to see the good, the bad, the ugly before I can make such a life-changing decision, because if I get to that age, I know that, you know, it helps to split the cost financially and all of those things, but I plan to be very rich. I've talked about this before. So I see myself when I'm at that age, I would rather, if I don't have a friend who really, really wants to co-parent and I trust them, then I would rather just be a single parent. I don't think there's really that much wrong with it.
I think for me, I'm here for co-parenting because I feel like there's a lot of children. Well, the thing is, when I first heard about co-parenting, I thought it was about people trying to look for children who are already in the world and don't have anyone who loves them or care for them. Because
why isn't that
something?
thing?
That's something that I feel very strongly about, especially in the sense of we're obsessed with the new in society, and that's new for everything. You know, if it's a child, I want them brand new and it has to be mine. And if they're not mine, then I want them from a baby. I don't want a toddler. Toddlers are fine. I don't want anyone who's 7 or 8 or a teenager. Like, we're very obsessed with it, and the rates for adoption for children who aren't babies and out of toddler age, it gets lower and lower the older they get. But I think in terms of co-parenting, as long as you find someone who shares the values that you do, and you're on the same page about how you want to raise the child, then I'm kind of cool with it. The thing that really threw me was people who want to co-parent. It's not romantic, but they still try to conceive naturally.
Oh, what, have the sex?
Yeah.
Have the sex.
I was trying to understand.
Why did I just have flashbacks to my first sexual education class in year 7?
Oh my days! Do you know what? The reason why I say it like that is because that's what the websites call it. They talk like the people who I read about who co-parent have said they talked about we try to conceive naturally. That's what they say. So basically, they just wanted to have sex instead of like in vitro, IVF, or whatever. But for me, I couldn't have sex with someone who I was co-parenting with and have no romantic interest in just to get pregnant. Like, I'm 100% going down the IVF route. 110%.
If you were going to do platonic co-parenting, you do the IVF?
Yeah, it's platonic.
That's real long. That's long though, fam.
Why am I getting into bed with you? Like, that for me just really blurs. I understand it's cheaper. I understand if you conceive naturally. Because that's why they say they do it. It's cheaper. It's a lot cheaper to conceive naturally, just to have sex and have a kid, than to do it in vitro and then do the hormones and this and that. But then there was this couple, it was in The Guardian, and they said they conceived naturally, and then the guy got over-attached, and they still ended up in legal court for this platonic co-parenting, and it turned out very ugly, and she said she regretted it. I don't think that there's ever any guarantees that things are going to work out when you bring a child into the world. And I think people who get into co-parenting because they think it's going to be less messy than from a romantic relationship, I'm sure there's just going to be obstacles, but different ones.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's just going to be different obstacles. I think whether you've married to the man or you met the man 2 months ago or 20 years ago, whatever, I think like it's two different people parenting one person or specific children, and there will be a clash at any point. So you have to kind of hedge your bets. Like, do I want to clash with somebody who I've seen what they're like when they don't get their own way, or somebody I don't know? Like that's the kind of bets you have to hedge. Personally, for me, would I? I don't think it's for me, and that's only because like the whole motherhood thing is a question mark. So I don't know if I'd ever want a baby so bad that I'd choose platonic co-parenting, because I think it just wouldn't be for me personally.
Can I ask you, when you say motherhood is a question mark, as in you're not sure if you want children? Like,
yes. I'm not. Yeah, I'm not sure if I want children. Period. So I wouldn't then get into a situation, and some of the reason as to why I'm not to go into it, but some of the reasons why is because I just don't want to have to look after the child. And I know that sounds crazy, but mothers are burdened with looking after children, and I don't want to do that. And so if I was platonically co-parenting, then because we're having to split the child up in time, if, for example, I had the child 2 weeks of a month and you had the child another 2 weeks of the month, those 2 weeks I have to be fully switched on for the child, and I just wouldn't want to do that, basically. So for me, it's like, I'm not sure. Do I think it works? I think it works depending on the people. Like, I've been watching old episodes of Sister because they came back on Netflix, and Lisa and Ray are the perfect example of people who are platonic co-parenting. Okay, they both have their children. Obviously, they're twins. It's a strange way, but they're not romantically involved. They didn't know each other before. They moved into this house and they're raising their children together. And when I watched Sister and I thought, wow, Lisa and Ray are platonically co-parenting. I've been watching this my whole life, and I've only thought it was a new concept, but it really isn't. So I think if you really want a baby and you have a friend that is willing to have a baby with you as well, then by means go down that route. I always think it's better to go familiar. But if you don't have anyone and it has to be a stranger, just make sure you do your research about the person, is what I would just say. That's all.
Yeah, I feel like research can't match the experience though, because like I said, like everyone can see, like it's a matchmaking site. So you're going to give me the bullet points of this person, and the bullet points might seem like.
But you could go on some coffee dates, Luanda. You could go on some coffee dates.
Coffee dates, Anissa. I cannot figure out. You just made a valid point, right? Because I don't think, first of all, it's okay not to want to be a mom, because it's a big commitment, and you're recognizing the fact that you have to give everything to this child. I can't figure out if I'm going to be able to do that for the next 18 plus years, / the rest of their life, off two costas. How am I supposed to know? How am I supposed to know?
I think
it's not enough time.
Let's be fair. A lot of people are so some of the families that I saw who do co-parenting, one people spent a year trying to get to know each other. They do spend a little time getting to know each other, a few months. And like you said, you can get pregnant from a one-night stand and not know that person and decide to keep the baby. I don't think there's really ever any guarantees. But in terms of what Anissa said, in terms of sister, I think for me, that's where the rose-tinted glasses kind of comes of co-parenting, because they live together in the house. Yeah. So that's a very different dynamic than to someone who's co-parenting and the parents don't live together. And that's what I would ideally like for my child, is for it to be two parents living within the same household. Because with co-parenting in different households, I don't really see that any different from divorced parents who just get along really well. and raise their child together. And I think there is a dynamic that is missed in bringing up children if the parents don't live together. And I say that as a child of divorce. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm talking from first-hand experience and seeing my husband and other people I know who grew up with two parents in their household, and it was a very loving, caring environment. I've seen a difference in myself and in them. And I would want my child to be able to have a two-parent household. So I don't really know how it differs when the parents are going to live separately and how that would be different from divorced parents, because I feel like it's just kind of similar. And I know a Guardian article was talking about there's a sort of intimacy that they'll miss from their parents not being romantically involved with each other. And they said studies are very early. We don't really know what the effect is going to be on children. But like I said, if there's children to be loved, I'm more than happy for children to come into a loving home, however that is.
Yeah, I don't know about the thing about you'll miss something if your parents aren't romantically involved, to be honest, because actually I think that a child coming from like a platonic co-parenting, like two-parent household might have more of a chance of a consistently healthy environment than a child who has to deal with the like before, during and after of a divorce. And so just because like you're romantically involved with someone, it doesn't mean that the relationship's going to be perfect. It doesn't mean that like there's not going to be like animosity and fights and all of those things. So I think like what you said about rose-tinted glasses, like we put that on for romance sometimes. And so much so that sometimes we accept romance that is less than what we deserve just because we want to have it. Like I see this with people all the time who really, really, really just want a romantic partner, so much so that they'll convince themselves that any Tom, Dick or Harry will do. And then they just stay in that relationship because they're comfortable now. Mm-hmm. But you started, you've been in the relationship since you were like 15 because the television and Valentine's Day told you that you're worth less as a singleton. So, you know what I mean? So I don't know, it's interesting. I think what we need to pay attention to is healthy relationships rather than looking at romance or did you meet online or did you meet from a one-night stand or were you married? Like, just look for healthy. That's it.
I think healthy, definitely. But in terms of the romantic relationships, I really have to come back on that one. And again, this is from personal experience. Like, the way that my husband treats me 100% is linked to the fact of the love that he saw in his parental home and the way that he saw his mum interacting with his dad and the way that he saw two people who were in love caring for each other. So I think definitely it's about healthy relationships. I agree with that 100% because you can have an unhealthy relationship at home and it makes no difference if there's two parents there. But I think that there is an added thing where a child sees how a loving relationship should happen between two adults romantically.
They can still, the point is, Sophie, they will still see that, but it just doesn't mean that it's going to be from the two people that are not raising you, but that created you. So you might see your mom, teach you how to love through her boyfriend, and your boyfriend just might not be your dad. It doesn't mean these children are going to be excluded from that. It just means it's definitely not going to be the two people that decided to raise the child together,
I'm not, okay, let me correct you. I'll just say this really quickly, Anissa. Yeah. I'm not saying it has to be the parents of the child that have to be romantically involved. I'm talking about people who decide to co-parent and don't have anybody else in the home apart from themselves. And then the child will go between the two households and they might not see a romantic love. I'm not saying it's going to be the worst thing in the world, but I think it does help the child if they see it. If their mum or their dad gets with someone and they see it, that's completely fine. It doesn't need to be between those specific parents.
Yeah, I'm just going to say, I kind of meet you guys in the middle there in that agreement because I, like Sophie, have come from divorced parents, but my parents were like the most happily divorced people, like the best of friends. They're still the best of friends now. So I saw that they still had love for each other, but the idea was I always see, and I don't know if it's just a me thing, always see a difference between me and people who were raised with both of their parents in the household in a healthy household, not the ones, no offense, not the ones who've had a less so healthy household, but the parents who are still in love. I always see a massive difference. And when I go to their house, I'm thinking, families love each other. They all sit in one room. Like, it blows my mind because I'm just like, this is crazy to me. Like, I didn't even think that this was real concept, that two people can sit with the children that they made together and all of them can be in one room, have healthy dialogue, have healthy conversation, love each other, have healthy natural relationships, and want to be in each other's company and are intentional about having each other in their lives. It's like, to me, whenever I see that, it's like the most mind-blowing thing I've ever seen in my life, ever. It's shocking.
That is so crazy.
So if I was gonna have children, I want the absolute opposite.
True, yeah.
I want the absolute opposite of my upbringing if I had children, because I've seen how it's worked for me. The jury's still out on it, so I want to see it in a different way.
The jury's still out. But you know what? Now that you said that, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Sorry.
So now that you've said that, I feel like maybe I've even probably coming from this whole conversation from a different place than everyone else, because like the reason why I was laughing, maybe it was a rude thing to do to laugh, but like that has literally just been my whole life, and I always
and that's a privilege, Luanda.
It is a privilege.
It's so privileged.
I have to say this, Luanda, because my husband, when we got together, could not understand the difficult dynamics between family who don't get along and can't really be around each other. Because I've been around that with uncles or aunts or whatever, I'm like, people cannot get along and the family continues, it's fine. But for him, his mind could not get it, because he was like, my parents have loved each other and have always, and I'm like, babe, it's not like that for everyone. And if you've had it, it's a privilege.
It's an absolute privilege.
If you get into a romantic relationship long time with somebody and you want to settle down with them and they haven't had it, Luanda, you will see differences. Like,
you will see it.
And it's not something that you want. What you have is the ideal, and I think it really allows children to have this soft cushion to go out into the world and be their best selves in a way that children from broken homes don't really have.
Yeah, I remember being at school and like my family and I would always get together for anyone's birthday or just some event or whatever. So all the cousins, all the uncles and aunties, we'd all be together. I remember talking to my best friend at the time, who's from like a single parent household and didn't have that much of a wide extended family. And I remember just saying just casually I love our family get-togethers. And then she started laughing at me. And I was like, what did I say? And she's like, and I was like, no, but what's funny? And she just laughed because she thought it was ridiculous because it wasn't familiar. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And it's not to say that just because I was raised in a 2-parent household with siblings that there hasn't been issues or there hasn't been family issues or times that people haven't gotten along and we need to sort things out. But I think I definitely recognised that growing up, I always had in my mind that I intended to replicate the family that I came from. I always just said I want to have 4 children because I have 3 siblings and we work out good. It just works, you know what I mean? So I was like, yeah, no, this makes sense. I want that. I'm going to make that for myself. But I guess the point is if I get to that age and I can't have it in the ideal way, I will do it by any means necessary because I want a family, so I will be having one.
Fair enough.
Birth, adoption, romantic.
Adoption
platonic.
would be beautiful.
Yeah, I'm here for adoption.
I think adoption's so beautiful, honestly.
Are you going to adopt, Sophie?
Do you know what? I think that's probably a question for another time.
We'll save that for next week.
We'll save it for